Foster III, where we discuss relevant topics that affect the culture with bold, independent commentary. Get ready to be inspired, enlightened, and encouraged.
What's going on? Welcome to the Voiceover Now podcast. I'm your host, D. Foster III, and I want to say I'm excited that you joined us. Listen, from the door, smash the like, smash the follow, subscribe even, so you know when we upload brand new content, and we're going to be doing it quite often, and it's going to be exciting. I want to say thank you to the owner and operator of WPB Media Networks, April J., for allowing us to grace her beautiful platform. Go to the website, WPBmedianetworks.com, and you can get all of our morning meditations, all of our podcasts, everything we do on the demand, on the YouTube, WPBmedianetworks.com. I want you to smash the likes, smash the follows. Come on, y'all. Make it happen. I am so excited to be here because guess what? We're going to get into some things. Oh, yeah. Follow us on our social media pages too. The Voiceover Now podcast. The Voiceover podcast. I don't know if they put now in there, but I think it's the Voiceover podcast. That's on IG and that's on TikTok. And you can follow us on the Voiceover Pod on Twitter. And what we do is we add and interject clips to give you kind of just an idea of what's coming up. If you're listening to us on your way home from work, on the train, in your car, on the WPB Media Radio, what's going on? Keep your eyes open if you're driving, and if you're on that train, chill, lay back, because we're going to get into some things. Now, let me say this. For most of my radio career, I would say in the beginning, or my TV or podcast, I've always had a co-host, and everybody says things go better with a co-host. But the problem is when you understand ethics in media, the host cannot really have a strong opinion if you have a guest. So I want to give my commentary, right? I may have a guest, or it may be like today, I'm going to do the show by myself. If I feel very strong about a subject, I want to do it because I don't want to have to be courteous because I have a guest, and I have to be neutral. That's just the protocol of media. So when I have something I feel very kind of like not very, very strong, although I feel very, very strong on everything, then I have a guest, especially when we get into needing experts like attorneys and doctors and all of these other things that we have planned. So today it's just me, and I think I will be able to bear the burden of doing the show alone because we're going to get into some things. Now, like every show, y'all do this every Sunday. Let me get some housekeeping announcements. Ain't that what they call it? Let me get some housekeeping announcements. Oh, share. Did I tell you to share? Did I tell you let somebody know that the Voiceover Now podcast is airing live? Yeah, do that. Do that for me, please. Let me get some housekeeping announcements out of the way. Reminder of the Voice of Hope connection every Sunday morning right here on WPBmedianetworks.com. Every Sunday morning, and on Wake Up Global TV, it's at 7 a.m. Don't forget the time goes back Sunday. No, spring forward. The time goes up. So don't be trying to catch us at 8. Don't be trying to catch us at 8. Get up and look at it live. You can always get the replay of the Voice of Hope, WPB Media Networks YouTube pages, as well as WPB Media, www.wpbmedianetworks.com on demand. And you can feel free to check it out if you want to on Wake Up Global TV YouTube. Also, immediately following the Voice of Hope connection on Sunday morning, you are invited to join us for the live 7:30 a.m. 7:30 a.m. And all of these are Eastern Standard Times because we know we have people viewing from all across the globe. 7:30 a.m., the Voice of Healing Community Prayer Call. And last week, it was just so refreshing, so energetic, so uplifting, regardless of denomination, regardless of if or what who you believe in. We come into the center of love in this circle of light, and we just pray for one another, sending positive synergy of energy. And all of us need healing. And if you want to participate in that, all we ask is that you just get on. You don't have to say anything. If you have prayer requests, if you want us to call those out or call your name or whatever, we will do that. And the information is on the screen. But if you want to connect with us in this light and this love circle on Sunday mornings, 7:30, you can call 605-313-5835. 615-313-5835. And the access code is 178-3334. 178-3334. You don't have to say anything. Come on and jump on and get into the flow of what's going on the Hope, the Voice of Hope and Healing Community Prayer Call every single Sunday. This podcast, The Voice Over Net, can be heard each Friday following, if you follow WPB Media, WPB Podcast Radio, or www.WPBMediaNetworks.com live streaming. You know, it takes me about 2 weeks, and I don't know all of this by heart, but because this information is new, kind of wrote it down because this is important to get through. Don't worry, I'm almost finished. Your church announcements are longer than this. So you can, whatever, or your group announcements, everybody, or if you have your favorite podcaster, they always make an announcement. You always have to let the people stay in the know. I talked about following us on our new social media platform. See, we almost down. We would love to hear from you. If you want to sow a seed into the Voice Over Net, it's going to cost us money. We just getting started. We need equipment. Eventually, we're going to the studio. Everything is going to cost. And if you feel that this is good ground, you can sow into us PayPal or either Zelle, Wake Up, WAKEUPP 03@gmail.com. WAKEUPP 03@gmail.com. Hey, we just modern church. They take an offering. We take an offering, right? Well, no, we ask for in-kind donations, right? We in-kind donations. I want to say we're starting this podcast off by celebrating Women's History Month. Yes, yes, yes. Yet where would we be? Especially celebrating and remembering the contributions that women have made to our nation and to the world. Women have made so many contributions that are not mentioned, that are not highlighted. But here on the Voice Over Net podcast, we wanted to take an opportunity to highlight all of the contributions that women have made throughout the month of March. And we'll go from historic and we'll move up. Today, we want to celebrate in particular the work of Madam C.J. Walker. Madam C.J. Walker as a pioneering figure. Through her successful hair care business, she not only shattered glass ceilings for women of color, but she also used her wealth to support various charitable organizations, including education and health care for African Americans. So we applaud Madam C.J. Walker. If you know somebody who has made a worthwhile contribution, regardless of their race, religion, send it in. That's right. Go into our inbox on our social media, The Voice Over Podcast, on Instagram and on TikTok, or The Voice Over Pod on Twitter. Go in the inbox and say, hey, listen, I have a recommendation of somebody who should be applauded, someone who has made a worthwhile contribution. Oh, praise his glorious name. Now, today we begin. Now, I just want y'all to know, we don't have no cut cards on the Voice Over Net podcast. We don't block for nobody. And we talk about what's already out there. We do not weaponize faults and failures. We may use them as a paradigm, as an example. but we do not weaponize faults, failures, because we all have them, right? But here, we don't block. We tell it like it is, straight, no chaser. There's enough blocking on mainstream media. And this is why we need independent voices. And this is why I'm hoping and encouraging you to support independent voices that are giving out truth. Today, I want to begin our series, and we'll probably do the series through the month of March. The current and future state conversation. The current and the future state. Today, I'm going to do the current and the future state of politics. In this series, it's going to be the current and future state of the church, the current and future state of the entertainment industry. Because we got to talk about some things. Did I tell you to share? Oh, okay. Did I tell you to smash that like button? Oh, okay. Just want to make sure. Now, I don't know where to start. I got so much. I got so you make. Let me start with this from the New Yorker, and then I want to get into some things. Fonnie Willis, this is the title. Now, I'm going to unpack this as we go, but I want to set the tone. Fonnie Willis paid lover Nathan Wade almost double the salary of his colleagues and met Kamala Harris before indicting former President Donald Trump. Defense lawyer says in a bombshell testimony about their affair and their 12,000 text messages. Now, for those of you who don't know, Fonnie Willis, the first Black lead prosecutor for Fulton County, woman, actually. That's an achievement. Of Fulton County, Georgia, in the process of handling the trial for Donald Trump allegedly trying to overturn the election. You know about that. She also currently has a RICO against YSL, Young Slime Life, which is led by Young Thug, rapper and artist. So I just wanted to paint the picture. But ain't nobody tell me, say it ain't so, that Fonnie is in an entanglement as the lead prosecutor. And I'm not going to say alleged on this because this is documented. You can look at the trials on TV. And she has admitted with one of her lead prosecutors, I'm going somewhere with this, Nathan Wade, and paid Nathan double, allegedly, than all the rest of the prosecutors, and was the most unqualified, allegedly, to be on the case. Now, I said that to say this. The state and the future, though this is law, but it's still politics. Does politics even matter when we see this? When we see Clarence Thomas allegedly last November brought up for taking gifts from big donors. When we see, can I keep going here? Because I want to set the tone for what we're going to talk about, the current and future state of politics. When we see allegedly a president trying to overturn and make the election go in his way, Donald J. Trump. When we see Marilyn Mosby, to bring it locally, the state's top prosecutor indicted for fraud charges. And you sit back, and I could go on and on and on, right? And I'm not weaponizing, but I'm telling you why this subject is so important. So when you sit back and you see all of this, you have to ask yourself the question, even if you don't want to be honest, you have to ask yourself the internal question, is this real? Does this matter? Because all I see is politics, AKA games people play. Don't know how they work all day when they in Florida, when they taking trips with their and I'm not weaponizing that. Take trips. But when you are a public servant for the people, we expect you to represent us. So this introduces my subject. Where are we going with politics? Because that's all it looks like it has become. And what's interesting in this, and I'm going to unpack it maybe in the next couple of weeks, because this is going to be a total subject of what's going on in Fulton County by itself. That's a whole show. I just use that as an example to introduce the subject. But what's interesting is this trip they made to see Kamala Harris, the vice president, allegedly, back in the month of February last year, before the indictments. Now, let me say this. That's why this is the voiceover. There are things as leaders we can do that are not wrong or illegal, or, depending on which field you in, morally wrong. But if those things appear unintegral, that kind of goes with what the scripture says, don't let your good be evil spoken of. If those things appear, like they say, okay, Clarence Thomas, he didn't break a law, but it just didn't look good. See, and when you're in leadership, it's not all let me skew the line. Let me see how close I can get before I fall over. Because like John Maxwell says in his book, leadership is nothing more, nothing less than influence. And if you have the title of leader and nobody is following you or me, and we're not influencing anybody, John Maxwell says we're just taking a walk. And how many leaders are taking a walk because we have no trust, no confidence in their leadership based on their actions of indiscretion? I didn't say illegal actions necessarily. I didn't say wrong. Fannie may still be on the case because now she's on trial and they're trying to decide whether she's disqualified from continuing to prosecute the Trump case. So she may stay on. But what is our perspective? You can't say, well, I don't care what people think. Not when you're leading people. And yet you don't have to live for people. But if people are following you, does politics even matter anymore? I'd love to hear your response. I would say, for most of us, no. You would say, why would you say no? Because we've seen behind the veil. I just read you an example. The job of a politician is put in office to serve the interests of the people, not to be self-servants. And we have a track record, not all, of politicians, and I just named a few, who it don't seem like it's about the people. I mean, that's just my opinion. It seemed like it's about self. How I can get my pension, how I can enrich my livelihood, how I can buy extra houses for my retirement. And if you do that earnestly and integrous, I have no problem with that. I always said, even the days I was in ministry, you ought to be able to have what you can afford. I don't care whether people like it or not. If you got it honestly and you can afford it, buy it. Who cares what people think in that perspective? You got the receipts. But it's when illegalities take place in lack of discretion. And in my opinion, that's what I come on here to do, give my opinion, my commentary. That's why I didn't want to guess, because I want to give my commentary on this because I feel very strong about this. That's all we have. Black, white, and other Santos. Look at that. George Santos. Supposed to be representing the people. People didn't even know who Santos was. He lied so much. And you know what always gets me? And this is the arrogance of it all. When people are caught, very seldom do they apologize or repent to the people they serve. And then they get real arrogant. I'm not stepping down. So does politics really matter to us? And I would have to say, I don't think so, to be honest with you. And I think it got that way. Many people got disillusioned after the last presidential election with the May, I believe it was, 6 incident in DC, and all the turmoil and all of the chaos that we experience. And still there's a lot of unanswered questions. I believe that elections, and I think that we have made it so, when I say society and elected politicians have made it so that people are jaded. Most people are jaded, especially when you talk about younger generations. They've seen so much fake, so much phony, so much politics. Like, I'm going to forgive all student loans, but that's just certain student loans. That's just, depending on where you got your loan from. So much politics that I don't think it's matter. And here's what I believe. I believe now people are, which I agree with to a lot, are fashioning the perimeters and the boundaries for their own life. They are taking their power back. Now, I don't mean in a destructive way to other people in harm, but I don't need a politician to decide whether I'm going to keep the child that I have. I don't need a politician to determine whether I can freeze a fetus. I don't, and that's just a few examples. And I think that because people are so jaded, it doesn't even matter. Look at the latest polls when it comes to voting over the last couple of years. And if you be honest and you get out like me, you hear people say, it don't matter. They're going to still get in and do what they want to do. Where did people get this from? You criticize that response, but it came from somewhere. People didn't just wake up with that. I believe that the results of the last last Tuesday showed us a lot. That's what wanted to really make me foster and do this show. Last Tuesday was a disgrace. And so I subtitled the show, Now We're Left, Nationally, Locally, with what I call wash, rinse, and repeat. Unbelievable. The same people that were running 3 years ago, we're left with the same elders. And it seems like whether it's local or national, all we see is wash, rinse, and repeat. So my question is, where are the younger, innovative, bright minds when it comes to political potentials? Why are we stuck with wash, rinse, and repeat? And it's always this that really irritates me when people say, well, they're the lesser of two evils. Why we always got to have a lesser, vote for a lesser of two evils? Why can't we vote for the better of the best? I told you we're gonna get into some things. And so I realized after Super Tuesday, Nikki Haley dropped out. Now, Biden does have this guy, I think from Baltimore. Kennedy is still in it, if I'm not mistaken. Then this guy, Patrick, forgive me if I'm mispronouncing his name, which we haven't heard on. But he made the ballot. What's this coming to? What does this say about this country? How this country has been run? And nobody takes it serious anymore. It's a job. It's security. Not everybody. It's a pension. How many times have I heard personal people say, and I'm sure you have too, I just want to stick in here until I can get my pension. You just identified yourself. You're not a servant. So I want to raise the question, and then I think I have some answers. We're the bright minds. I use the area that I grew up in, the DMV. You have some of the best universities, Howard, Maryland, Morgan, Coppin, Towson, Hopkins, University, brilliant minds, world-renowned. University of Columbia. Why we don't see any of those alumni saying, I'm running for president, I'm running for governor? It's always the ones who've been through the cycle. That's why I said we're tired of rinse, wash, and repeat. Now, if politics, and I believe it is changing, the landscape of it is changing, and it needs to change, in my opinion. But if it's going to maintain any kind of relevance that's left, which is very little in the average American mindset, especially once you leave the boomers. They show out in Ohio and Kentucky, the boomers, I'm voting for this. But for the most part, you don't get that out of successive generations. Because for successive generations, things have to work for us to keep believing in them. We don't believe in stuff just because we've always believed in it, especially as we're moving into a time of the internet. I mean, now, let me go back to say something that I said in the beginning when I read about Fonnie Willis and talked about Clarence Thomas. You said, well, that's been happening. Oh, that's nothing new. Yes, corruption has been happening for a lifetime, but you didn't have the internet. You didn't have bloggers. You didn't have people that could go back and find it out. You didn't have camera phones. That's the difference. You had J. Edgar Hoover. People knew everything, but it was hard to come up with proof because their technology wasn't there then. but it's here now. They had bug phones and, flip camera, but not like now. Just take out your camera phone, like with George Floyd. Think girl, young lady waiting on the bus, you might have never known. The world has changed. The landscape, thank God, has changed. So we don't believe what doesn't work anymore just because we've always believed in it. That generation is fading. So again, if politics is going to remain relevant for whatever relevance it has left, in my opinion, it must become more appealing for us to have more options in selecting leaders. Right now, it's not appealing. Which one you want to vote for? None. Neither. Well, you got to vote. No, I don't. Well, you got. No, because vote means I'm putting my stamp of approval. Well, take the least of the evils. I don't want to do that no more. Now, I'm not saying no vote. I'm giving you an example of what I feel is the sentiment. Locally, rinse, wash, and repeat the remnants of a 4-year mayoral election. Same pretty much candidates. We're the young, we're the graduates from Towson, we're the graduates from Morgan, we're the graduates from Hopkins, University of Maryland Law School, we're the graduates. Why aren't they entering it? Rinse, wash, and repeat. And nobody cares because we can expect what we've always seen. I told you I'm straight no chaser. I'm not blocking for nobody. If you like a little Coca-Cola in yours, maybe the voiceover is not it. But you know it is. You know it is. Give us more options. Now, let's get some solutions here. The first problem I see is that there is no leverage for innovation. And I think that keeps a lot of the young minds out of it. In other words, to come in, you have to be a cookie cutter from what I've seen and what I've been told of what has already existed. And don't come in, boy, AKA making no waves. And so we have to, in my opinion, I don't know what century this will be done, we got to make room for innovation, for somebody to come in and say, hey, let's change up the way we've been doing this. You should be able to vote. They got the technology where you can just flip your smartphone on. There is a app. I'm just giving you an example. Don't tell me they can't encrypt that and encode it where it can't be. Oh, the election will be stolen. No, I'm not buying it. It's just the same way we've done it. Mail in or go to the polls. So there's no space in politics, in my opinion, and that's just one example out of many, in my opinion, of why young minds are not entering into politics. There is, like in the church, there is very little, well, I'll get into that later. Well, come on, D. Foster 3. There's very little room for innovation. Because y'all ready for this? Did I tell you to share this? Did I tell you to smash that like button? Did I tell you to follow? Because when you have gatekeepers, what did he say? I said, gatekeepers. who have been in positions of power and authority, and they have no innovative abilities. It threatens their position when you come in and say, hey, let's switch it up. Which means the gatekeepers may be becoming irrelevant. And they ain't having it. And so we're not having it. So that's the first problem. To me, politics is the same old game. The same old game. It's always been from the beginning. So with younger, more innovative minds who were not born necessarily into political families. That's the other difference. These upcoming bright minds, a lot of them weren't born into the political, so they don't know. See, when you're born like the Kennedy that's running, you know how politics works. So I hear what you say, but I can pretty much expect you to do it the same way you've done it, because you know how this works once you get in it, because you are not a novice to politics. You have generations, you know people that are in politics, right? I'm just using that for an example. So you have a lot of people in politics, they have generations in politics, so they know how the game is played. A lot of the up and bright coming minds are unfamiliar with politics. They were born on the internet. They were born with smartphones. So they don't know how to come in and play the game. And if you don't play the game, if you don't endorse our agenda, number one, we don't give you the money. And it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get elected without a war chest. But that war chest comes with a condition, me playing the game. And since I don't know the game, then I don't qualify for the war chest. All right, that's just one thought. I would love to know what you think. That's just one thought. We are free thinkers here on the Voice Over Net podcast. We don't mimic what we've heard before. We think for ourselves. And I encourage you as a follower. I'm not telling you how to think. I just want to make sure that you think. So there's no space in politics, because the primary concept of politics is, if you want to play this game, stick to the script. And we live in a time where people are not as willing to play the game, so we stay out of the game. And then the game becomes wash, rinse, and repeat. And that's partly why. Because people are not as willing to play the game. People are waking up. People are coming into a realization of what truth is for them, and not buying it just because you said it as an authority figure, no matter who you are. The future of politics is, in my opinion, that's what I'm here for, it's extremely grim. As if things do not change drastically and quickly, I predict it'll be a wah. What you mean? It won't matter moving forward. It's just something that we hear about, but it has no impact on our life. We don't feed into it. And we're almost there now. And if things don't change, in my opinion, quickly, who cares? I'm still going to have to pay the mortgage. I'm still going to have to pay the car note. I'm still going to have to go to work. See, this is the mentality. You've not affected any of those areas for the better, for the most part, right? So who cares? Unfortunately. Different than prior generations before, the current younger voters are interested in, here's another thing, leaders who are humanitarian. We don't care that you come from a family of coal miners. It's the age of Aquarius. We don't care. That's Capricorn stuff. We don't care that you come from a family of bankers, that you laid 1,000 miles of railroad tracks. That is not the catch card of voters today in this generation. This generation are interested in leaders, whether they're spiritual, political, whatever, that are humanitarian. In other words, they meet the needs of others more than they meet their own greed. In other words, you love leaders concerned about the homeless, immigration, the sex trafficking that's going on, the war. Unlike prior leaders who were only elected based upon economics. People vote their pocket. But I think over the last year, something else more has evolved where people are voting, what are you doing to help people? And that's what I heard after Super Tuesday. They've done nothing about the immigrants. They've done nothing about the war. These are humanitarian needs. So before people would elect leaders who were talking about the economy, Reagan days, the economy, read my lips, wong wong, education, and all these things are still important. But now people want leaders who are going to allow and stay out of their personal life and rights. So you let me choose whether I'm going to keep my child. You let me choose who I can marry. I'm just saying. And if you're not talking about those things, there's a generation who's not interested in getting into a cycle of keeping the script. So my analysis is, as we wind this up, if politics is going to be relevant, it has to have space for innovation. It has to address the needs of the people who elected them. I mean, and not just talk it, be about it. And it has to stay out of people's personal life. And then lastly, I think it's too dirty. When you are a bright mind and you are a free thinker and you are an evolved individual, you don't want to bring your life and your future and your family into a skunk fight. Who wants their life shattered? Because all of us have parts of our life we're not proud of. Who wants that in the paper? Who wants that in the blog? You keep that little bit of money, and I'll keep my dignity. That's the mind. And I've talked to people. I say, why don't you run? You bright. No, I ain't trying to get out there and be drugged through the mud. It ain't worth it. And I was like, I agree. I agree. So there's a lot of things to consider. And if we don't take these to heart, and I'm not saying these are the only ones, these are the ones I see at the forefront of why politics doesn't work in this country. And the current state is it's a failure. And the future of it is if we don't address some of these situations that I brought up on the Voice Over Now podcast today, it'll be a thing of the past. It may always exist. People will continue to stop voting. And I got statistics here I didn't even get to. 65% of the people currently think this country is going the wrong direction. 65% of the people currently think this country is going in the wrong direction. Wow. I can give you a whole lot of statistics, but you can Google those things. Just something to think about. Just a thought. I want to say thank you for joining us today on the Voice Over There podcast. Hope in some kind of way you were educated, entertained, enriched, encouraged, most importantly, provoked to think for yourself. Until next week, or until Sunday morning, this is your host, D. Foster 3, saying, you have a voice. Keep lifting it. Peace.
Thank you for being a part of The Voiceover. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay connected to our upcoming shows and guests. Instagram at The Voiceover Radio. Twitter at DPropheticI. That's the letter D, prophetic, EYE. If this show has enriched you in any way, please share The Voiceover among your circle. Until next time, keep allowing your voice to be